All right, Max and anyone else who is watching today, we are reviewing Toussaint Louverture. Um, I did need to look up how to pronounce that. This is original. This is an interesting book. It's originally a play was made about this guy who is, as the title says, basically led the only successful slave revolt in history. So this is a story about San Domingo, which becomes Haiti, and the leader Toussaint, who is like critical and vital in making a lot of political and military decisions to make that happen. It I think I mentioned, yeah, it was adapted originally from a play written about the history of this character, and then they turned the play into a graphic novel. The adaptation was by Nick Watts and Sakina Karimjee. And so let's jump into it. Here is our patent pending scoreboard. And I wrote the first word of the title too big, so I had to squish the second. Starting with the characters. The characters in this story are a couple really, really strong characters. You see, obviously, not surprisingly, the main character repeatedly is Toussaint. There we are. Getting better at that. He's got a pack of people he's working with in the quest to get freedom. There are also some of the other people that are the original owners, the slave owners, and obviously they are pretty crazy in this story and drawn, I mean, in interesting ways. You meet his wife and his kids. Those are also important characters. So I'm giving you a sense just of what the look and feel of the book looks like as well. So the main character, Toussaint, I mean, you get to see his development quite a lot, from maybe a bit more naive to this leader, movement. You see him, interacting with his family, my sons, blah, blah, blah. And it's, I think, again, some of the characters are quite strong. But I think what I lost for this is that I just could not keep up with this book at all. Like, the character score is lessened a bit because there are just so many. A lot of this, just a ton of words. A lot of it is spent on like more of the like political arguments and back and forths. Some of that is interesting, but I struggled to follow all of it. So yeah, I think the character score for some of the characters, particularly the main one, that brings the character score up. But frankly, there's so many other characters that like none of them particularly stuck out, and I think that's always the challenge of some of these types of stories. Like, you could talk about like a Lunar New Year love story, which has such a core small group of characters, or a Himawari House, like same thing. Just reviewed that. So yeah, just from, I think this is, again, maybe my own biased perspective, but I think this kind of stuff just becomes incredibly difficult to parse. Like, and I think, again, if characters are, coming back to how I score these things, if the characters are the memorable part you come back to the thing for, then I just think that wouldn't be the strongest thing, but Toussaint brings it up. In terms of the art, I thought, again, like, solid, again, I repeatedly will go to, I like use of color. This book is in total black and white, but still, some of these scenes like this here, like some of the fights look pretty awesome. They do some creative things with just like the use of people, like, I think, to sort of illustrate the legion of people that the decisions impact. So I think I would say the highlights are some of the war things. Where I feel like it's like less interesting is in just how many panels there are of just like dialogue, essentially, between the different people trying to work out different negotiations, convince him Toussaint to do X, Y, or Z. How is this going to impact the British or the French or what have you? But yeah, so some of it I think is like I really like some of these things too. Like again, I think the strongest art pieces are the ones where they kind of have these like expressions of the whole populace and what's happening to them because of what they're talking about, and I think those are the strong points. And then the history and culture of this. It's hard not to give this a 10. I mean, when it comes to history and culture, this book doesn't get more history and culture. This is basically a history book told through the lens of a play that was then converted to a graphic novel. I'm just saying what I already said before, but in terms of like, is the history memorable? Is it like true? Is it strong? Yeah, I think the history part of this is incredibly interesting, and I think it's like. Absolutely no fluff in this book. It's not like there's a love story on top. It's not like, you're just getting like 100% the facts. But I do think that this is like why, again, I've talked about this before. I think depending on the decisions, it's hard to do all of these really, really well simultaneously. And I think what this book does so well in giving so much cultural, historical information, it really hurts its readability. Like, this is the first one of these books this is the first graphic novel I've reviewed where I just couldn't make it through the end of it. I just gave up at some point. I started skipping around to kind of get more of the main bits, but it's almost 300 pages, and a lot of the pages are just super dense. And again, the sheer, I was never a great history buff, so I think some of that is just having to balance so many details, names, dates, and this feels like some of the decisions here to make this into a graphic novel work really well. Again, I think some of the art and stuff, just like kind of drawing some of the people arguing for slavery like demonically is like a cool artistic move that fits what they're talking about. I think choices like this really lend to the medium of a graphic novel. Where I think maybe this doesn't work as well is that they tried to almost, and I'm assuming because I've never seen the play, but it feels almost like they tried to do a one-to-one mapping of whatever the play was, reenacting this history, and then just like graphic novelize it, which I'm verbing a word right now. Can that work? Yeah, maybe, but like I really feel like they could have taken more artistic leaps with this story that would have made it like much better for this medium. I'll give an example in the other way. Fun Home by Bechtel, a very famous graphic novel. I probably won't review it for this series, but there's a great musical that got made from the graphic novel into a musical, right? For this story of Fun Home. It's like an autobiographical thing about her and her relationship to her dad. The graphic novel was excellent, and the play took it as inspiration, but made its own complete art form that's very different from the graphic novel. It wasn't trying to do a one-to-one mapping of every panel or every whatever. I think that's this done right in the other direction. I think if they really wanted to convert this play and make it really readable and fun as a graphic novel, they needed to do something different. There's way too much. I think there's just like way too many descriptions, characters, text. Like some of the reasons that it works in a musical is that it's like stringing you along, and you get the voices to differentiate and stuff like that. It's just I think also these are way too many words for a musical. You couldn't have this much. It really does feel like something between a musical and like a history book. So I just think the readability on this one is, if I can't get through the book, I think that unfortunately makes it a 1. And in terms of the X factor, also pretty low. I think it's cool. Like the story I find is unique. Like I didn't even know this existed. Like that there was essentially Haiti was formed from like the only successful slave revolt in history. That's fascinating. And this guy is clearly a military genius, an incredibly interesting person. Interesting to the point that, again, there's been plays and books now written and graphic novels written about his life story. But I don't think that they did like anything with a medium, unfortunately, that was like super innovative, aside from the subject matter. So anyway, this is pretty much it for this book. I still think if you're interested in learning about Haiti and culture and like an incredibly, arguably one of the most important people ever in Haitian culture, this is a cool, it's a more visual way than like reading like an actual biography or a history book. But definitely, I think if different choices could have made it pop a bit more. But anyway, here nor there. I'll leave it there.